Support for Short Stops is presented by the Caylum Trading Institute. Check out our website at www.cayluminstitute.com. On today's episode,
So little trivia we have is, and for those listening, so if you ask any staff in a Shakey store what the wow culture means, they should be able to answer that.
Talaga?
Yeah. So you try it. If it doesn't work, you have to tell me, and I owe you a pizza.
call it what you want, a game, an experiment, a gamble. But stock trading in the global financial markets to us is a business. Every day you're surrounded by the noise. Buy, sell, hold, buy more. And we're going to quiet it down and filter out the best trading strategies, tips, and stock picks. You want information on how to find your next bagger or home run? You'll find it right here on Short Stops.
Welcome everybody to episode 18 of Short Stops. For the first time, we've come offsite to visit small to mid-sized companies that we feel the market has overlooked. There is huge potential and huge opportunity. And luckily, we were able to have one of our favorite companies, Shakey's Philippines, come join us today. With me is Head Treasury and Investor Relations, Giovanna Vera. Hi, Giovanna.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me today.
So, Shakey started 40 years ago.
Yeah.
1975,
Correct.
over 40 years ago. And
You weren't born then.
we weren't born
we
then.
weren't born then yet. Okay.
And the Poe family
Yep.
came in 2016.
16. Correct.
Can you just share to us why they went into the food business?
Okay.
Particularly in the restaurant.
Right. So the Poe family, if you're familiar with one of our bigger businesses as well, within the Century Pacific group of companies, is Century Pacific Food, which is also listed in the stock exchange. That company is market leader in essentially canned food. So Century Tuna, I'm sure you're familiar, market leader in canned fish. Argentina corned beef, now going into milk with our Birch Tree brand. So from a group perspective, we were thinking, okay, we understand food, we understand brands, but we were strong in essentially in-home food consumption. What we were lacking was essentially an exposure in out-of-home food consumption. That's point one. Point two is, I'm sure you're familiar with the robust macroeconomic fundamentals of the Philippines, right? So rising incomes. So though there's still a large part of the population, the class D, class C, that will still be very much consuming in-home food, there's also a growing segment in the Philippines, the upper C's, class B, class A, that will increasingly spend more in recreational things, such as out-of-home food consumption. So I guess broadly it was kind of saying, where are the gaps in our portfolio, in our strategy? And when the Shakey's opportunity came up, it fit essentially the two main criteria, which is a strong brand in food and obviously an exposure in out-of-home food consumption.
On your first point, you talked about how it was basically integrated with whatever Century Pacific has already been doing.
Correct.
Previously.
Yes.
Was this a matter from having that distribution channel up until the end so that you have your restaurant as your channel?
That's the end.
as
Okay.
the end?
I think that does make sense, from a strategy point of view, but we were thinking of that less so. And that's why you'll notice we didn't acquire Shakey's within CNPF. We actually decided to acquire it separately and list it separately. Because yes, there is potential to sell our products through this restaurant channel, but we were thinking less that kind of synergies. It was really more of where as a group we wanted the exposures of, but we felt that these two businesses could stand alone and do very well separately, as separate entities. And that's kind of why we now have CNPF and Pizza listed as two separate
Fantastic.
companies. Yeah.
How many stores do you have, and in which regions are you most prominent in?
Okay, so right now we have, as of the end of March 2018, we have around 212 stores. The bulk of that is still in Metro Manila, in the National Capital Region. Close to half of that is still in the National Capital Region. And to be fair, that does make sense because Shakey's is a little bit more expensive than your fast food types, almost double the price than going to, let's say, a Jollibee or McDonald's, or even getting a chicken in mini stock. So it's not really the cheapest, but what we like to say is that it provides a lot of value for money. Because for just that extra 100, 150 pesos versus your fast food, we like to think you get a much better experience. No, someone comes in, brings you to your table. You don't have to stand up in line waiting for your food. No. Having said that, for a long time in the Philippines, only kind of higher income parts of the country can afford that quote unquote experience, and that's why close to half of the stores are in NCR. But having said that, in the last 15 months, almost 70% of all the stores we've opened in the last 15 months are now outside of NCR.
Okay.
So alongside the growing, the healthy macroeconomic fundamentals of the Philippines and the growing incomes across the country, we've seen an opportunity to try to start bringing the Shakey's experience to more places in the Philippines.
And given that, how many stores do you guys plan to open over the next 5 years?
When the Century Pacific Group came in early 2016, we said that we wanted to try to target to open 15 to 20 net new stores a year in the Philippines. No? So in 2016, we were able to achieve opening 17 stores. In 2017, which was last year, we actually exceeded our own target by opening 24 net new stores. And then this year, we're looking to hit the high end again, hopefully of our range, maybe even exceed that. No? So, but right now, we're targeting another 20 stores. No? So this kind of 15 to 20 store range over the next couple of years, that's the kind of pace that we feel is appropriate, no, given the way that the economy is growing now, number one, and also number two, execution, right? Because it's easy to say, oh, let's open 50 stores tomorrow, right? But at the end of the day, what we're very conscious about is, again, that experience we provide the guests. No? So every time we open a store, we want to make sure we're doing it correctly.
In fact, you talked about one of unique characteristics about pizza.
Right.
Is that it's something special not just to Filipinos,
Correct,
but for a lot of people outside.
Correct.
And the reason why it's because it's not just about having the dine-in experience. So if you're talking about takeout, how big of an importance is that to the business model also?
No, so you're correct. So I think all of us know that pizza is almost like a delivery food or a takeout food. No, so lazy Friday, don't know what to do on a Friday, don't know what to cook. So let's have some pizza. I think it's because of, I guess, the way it's shaped, it keeps heat well. No, so it tends to keep heat well much better than other food types. That's why it tends to do better for takeout. No, so that's good that you brought that up, because we were talking about store network expansion outside of Manila, right? Going to provincial areas where more and more people are looking for that elevated dine-in experience. No, but now looking at Manila. How then do we grow in Manila, right? If we're not so much concentrating on aggressively expanding stores compared to, let's say, in the provinces. No? So for us, it's essentially a two-pronged growth strategy. The first being provincial, there's so many areas that don't have a Shakey's. Let's put in the Shakey's there. Here in Manila, where there are a number of Shakey stores already, we think the big potential is delivery. No, and it goes hand in hand with the fact that here, that's where kind of the traffic is getting worse, right? It's also here where I would say this whole phenomenon of, being digital savvy, for example, right? No one wants to, especially the millennials, no one wants to get on the phone anymore and talk to someone to have someone delivered. So kind of these initiatives on online, making our app much easier to use, making the website much more accessible. So especially for Manila, I think delivery is a very important component. But again, it's two-pronged. No? So on a consolidated basis, we want to see both the dine-in and the delivery portion grow hand in hand.
And streamline through digitization.
And then start to accelerate through the digital component. Now, in fact, just to show you how important this has become to our company. Before, digital used to just be part of marketing. Marketing meaning you have they would look at
Excess
traditional
costs.
channels, correct. But now, we actually have a digital head. So, completely separate from the marketing head. So, that's how important digital is starting to become, especially in areas like Manila, where the habits of the consumer are becoming more like the consumers in developed markets, where, as you may know, in places like UK, places like Australia, other pizza companies have had tremendous success just by streamlining this online and digital portion of their business.
When the family bought the trademark and the license to
Yes.
do Shakey's,
Yeah.
it wasn't just in the Philippines.
Correct.
Can you enlighten us on which countries also?
Sure. So actually this company has the rights for Shakey's for almost essentially half of the world. No? So it would include China, the rest of Asia, Australia, New Zealand, entire Middle East. No? So for all intents and purposes, half of this part of the world, and we've actually already opened one international store in the Middle East. We're scheduled to open another one sometime in June or July, so that will be our second international store. You'll notice that the pace of opening stores outside of the Philippines is a little bit slower compared to the 15 to 20 I mentioned in the Philippines. So with regard to international, we're just kind of testing, feeling our way through it. Let's see how it works. We're also trying to make sure that the system is in place, no? Because in the Philippines, it's almost like cookie cutter already, right? So we want to open a store, we already kind of know exactly what to do. With international, that's kind of the priority now, making sure we do it correctly, figuring out the system.
In each place that you go through, is it a partnership with a local company also?
Correct. So in the Philippines, what we do is hybrid. 60% of our stores would be company owned, 40% would be via franchise. However, in international, we've decided that we'll go 100% franchise for all international stores, and that's because we've realized the importance of being very connected to the local consumer. No? So same as Shakey's. Shakey's actually in the 1950s used to be a US brand. No? As you mentioned earlier, it came to the Philippines in the 1970s, but when it was brought here, it wasn't just copied from the US. We really had to kind of localize it and make it more attuned to the Filipino taste and the Filipino culture. So same when we go to other countries, we have to be very conscious that we need to make it attuned to the local taste and the local culture, and that's where the local franchisee will play a very big part.
There's a lot of competition also in the pizza space.
Correct.
Pizza Hut, you have Yellow Cab.
Yeah.
How does Shakey
compete?
compete?
No, you're correct. There's been a lot of competition. I guess that's what they call the double-edged sword when it comes to growth. I mean, growth is good for everyone, right? Where in the world can you find GDP of 6 to 7%, right? I think there are only a handful of countries, the Philippines included. But at the same time, that also means that everyone is now looking at the Philippines, right? Wanting to take a piece of that pie. No pun intended. No. But yeah, you're correct. The competition has been quite intense, but I would say at the end of the day, number one, what's very hard to compete with is the brand. Literally, so many people have grown up with Shakey's, so it's very hard to kind of replicate that sentiment, that good feeling that people have with a brand like Shakey's, a legacy brand like Shakey's, as opposed to newcomers. No, that's point number one. Point number two is we're very proud of our culture, what we call our wow culture. Wow meaning literally wow the guest. No, so again, quite frankly, entering the restaurant business is there are fairly low barriers to entry. I mean, compared to, let's say, building a power plant or building a big manufacturing facility where you would literally need billions of pesos. No, you would know that. I'm sure you have some friends who decide that, I enjoy cooking. Let me do my own little restaurant. No, so that's part of the business, is low barrier to entry. No? But what's difficult to replicate is now execution, right? So we're very proud that we're able to execute again the same wowing experience in every single Shakey's wherever we go. No? So we have that system. We have a little Shakey school, right, where all our branch managers, all all the people on the ground need to enter before actually being deployed. So that's point number two. And point number three is again this whole thrust towards provincial. What we're noticing is more of the competition is here in Metro Manila, in NCR, where incomes are higher. No? So again, back to that analogy, when you're looking at the Philippines, 6 to 7% growth, usually you're gonna prioritize the higher income, higher dense areas. No? But for us, we're saying our brand is recognized nationwide already. Our margins are very healthy, that we have enough profitability to kind of go to farther flung areas. So that's also been another strategy for us, is to start to go to the second and third tier cities where the competition may be not as intense as, let's say, here in Metro Manila.
One of the concerns this year was that even though we had rising wages,
Yep.
we also had rising inflation.
Correct.
And I'm sure in the first quarter, it also played a huge hit to you guys
Correct.
in terms of cost of goods sold.
Correct.
So how did you guys manage to go through it in the first quarter? And will you see price increases throughout the year?
Okay, yeah, so you're correct. I think all companies felt it across the board, no, in the first part of the year. We made a conscious decision in the first quarter to delay first our price increase. And I guess tying back up to what I was mentioning earlier, our very healthy margins. We have one of the best margins, no,
Correct.
terms of profit, EBITDA, net margin.
In the entire restaurant industry.
Correct. So that in a way allows us a little bit more flexibility. So yes, there were margin pressures, but at the end of the day, if you look at the absolute profitability of this business, it's very good. No? So it was a very conscious decision to delay for a while the price increase, because we wanted to feel out what was the consumer sentiment post the terrain law. No? So as you mentioned, everything is rising. So we said, okay, we have enough buffer in our margins. Let's kind of feel our way through what kind of traffic
Reception
momentum.
first.
Correct. And then once we said, okay, it seems like it's still very healthy, then we did an incremental price increase in the latter part of Q1. And that's why in Q1 you did see some margin squeeze from our P&L. But as I mentioned, we have already moved on pricing at the end of March. So we do expect some recovery on margins moving forward because of that price increase. Having said that, we're all guests here of Shakey's. No? So as a company, want to ensure you that price increases we always try to have that be our last resort. No? So if we can find ways to maintain margins by cutting on operating expenses, managing, being able to maximize operating leverage, we would rather do that. But unfortunately, as you mentioned, it's inflation has clocked in higher than it's been in the last many months.
Correct,
No?
yeah.
So we felt like many other companies, that at this point we had no other choice but to pass on some of that to our guests.
Do you guys have a guidance for 2018?
So for 2018, we're looking at hitting low double-digit top-line growth. No, so that would be on the back of 3 to 5% same-store sales growth. Again, the first quarter clocked in a little bit lower than that. Again, because we didn't do any price increase for the first quarter. No, but with that price increase, we should see that pick up a little bit. That's point number one. And point number two is Q1 actually tends to be a seasonally slow period, no? Because again, as I don't know if you guys do it the same, but after Christmas, no, people try to save up after spending too much in December. So when the seasonally higher Q2 comes in, which is graduation season, right, and of course Q4, which is typically a bonanza, no, for a lot of people, sales should pick up. And then, as I mentioned, we're also looking to open 20 net new stores this year. No? So that should put us roughly at the low double-digit top-line growth. And then, as I mentioned, we are trying to maintain our margins for the year. So hopefully that top-line growth does translate into the equivalent bottom-line growth as well.
The family has changed so much in the last, changed the company in the last
Sure.
2 years so much. I mean, you guys grown 60 stores
Yeah.
already. Do you guys have plans to acquire new brands, acquire new types of companies?
Okay. So definitely, I think maybe change is not the correct word. It's probably like elevating, because as we know, even before Century Pacific Group came in, Shakey was doing very well already. So it's kind of taking the same strategy, but
Bring it to a higher level.
Yeah, correct. Taking it to the higher level. No, so that's point number one. Having said that, I mean, we've talked about Shakey's and all our plans for the last 15-20 minutes. No, so you'll see that this is keeping us quite busy. No, so the whole expansion into provincial areas, trying to open, call it 20 stores a year in the Philippines, and doing it correctly, right? Not just opening left and right, but doing it correctly. fixing up our international part of our portfolio, right? Just kind of again sensing what the demand is out there, and finally the delivery in the digital space. No? So in the next, I would say these are our short to medium term priorities. Another brand I would say is really more opportunistic. Again, right now we have no real plans because the one Shakey's brand we have is, we think, still quite a long runway to produce for us double-digit growth. But having said that, what is the say never, right? So for us, it's always an open mind, and I guess the advantage is this company is very cash generative. We have very healthy cash generation, no? So in terms of if and when that opportunity comes, I would say we would be prepared financially to pursue those kinds of opportunities.
You mentioned the wow factor a while ago and the wow culture.
Yes.
How does that normally play out?
No. So little trivia we have is, and for those listening, no, so if you ask any staff in a Shakey store what the wow culture means, they should be able to answer that.
Talaga?
Yeah. So you try it. If it doesn't work, you have to tell me, and I owe you a pizza. No, but I have 99% confidence that you can ask anyone in the store and ask them what does wow culture mean, and they should be able to tell you that it's essentially consistently exceeding guest expectations. So it's not just about feeding you, giving you pizza,
or just serving you.
Correct. So it's really
going the extra mile.
Correct, taking it to the next level, no. And I think that is what differentiates Shakey's. Of course, the food is a different. That's definitely a differentiator, right? Our pizza, our chicken, our mojos. But I think that kind of other qualitative thing, that magic dust, if you want to call it, is our people are genuinely happy that you're coming in our store, right? Genuinely happy to give you a pizza on your plate, or see that your glass is 1/4 already, and offer you another round of iced tea, another round of water, right? Allow the kids to run around the store, right, without scolding them that they're causing a mess, right? So these are little things, and our people are empowered. People are empowered to execute on this wow philosophy. You know? So if it's someone's birthday, they're empowered to say, you know what, give them a free slice of cake. I mean, so it's these little things. It's not one thing, but it's little things.
It might not matter too much, but to them it might be a big deal.
Correct. And it's a mentality for our people that you should notice these little small things, and realize, that it actually makes a big difference to the experience of the guest.
There you have it, the company that makes my favorite mojos, finally online. Thank you, Giovanna, for having us.
Yeah, so this made me hungry, right? So 77777.
So next time in promo, you just have to call Giovanna instead.
Correct. Good, thanks.
All right.